What's up? This is Vince Carter. You're listening to the 3-Point Conversion. Check it out.
Hi, everyone. This is Carito Park bringing you a special one-on-one interview with Atlanta Dream point guard Renee Montgomery. Renee, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, you've been in headlines for all the right reasons lately. You announced that you're opting out of the 2020 season to focus on social justice issues. Tell us what these last couple weeks have been like for you. Were you expecting so much support?
Yeah, I was not expecting so much support. I thought that I was just going to be doing my thing, but I was just announcing that I just wasn't going to be playing. But man, the support, the outpour was crazy. And then, people were asking me, what are you going to be doing? We want to help. And I'm like, what? Okay. Right. So yeah, it was not expected, but very welcomed.
Great. And you said people want to help and they were asking you what you're doing. Now, I know an issue that's been very important to you is voter suppression. And we just heard in Atlanta that the Hawks have partnered with the county to make State Farm Arena one of the largest precincts in the city. So tell us about that. What are your thoughts? And just let us know why the voter suppression is so important to you.
Yeah, so that's huge because a lot of times there's way too many voters for one poll. You have some states getting rid of all of their polls and you just have one for thousands and thousands of people. That's what causes the lines. That's what causes people to not want to stay and leave. So when you open up somewhere huge like State Farm Arena,
right?
Okay, you have a lot of different people working there. Fulton County, we're repeat offenders for voter suppression. So that's a good place now where we can, that's a hub. I need to talk to the Hawks because I want to be a part of that because that's what we need. We need more organizations taking a hold of this and providing solutions.
Yeah, solutions are very important. And I think what was really good is we got to see in the primaries what went wrong because all elections are important, but we have a presidential election coming up. So to be able to learn from that and then have people like you supporting that issue is going to be huge, I think, for the elections coming up.
Yeah, definitely. And, so the Hawks are doing that. I'm going to be doing something on my own as well. And when you have that many people working towards fixing that problem, that's one of the reasons why I sat out of the WNBA, because I think that it's that important. When you get a lot of eyes and attention on something, you get results.
Exactly. And speaking of those results, we've seen other WNBA players announce since you made your announcement that they're also going to sit out this season. How powerful is that? I mean, your own teammate, Tiffany Hayes, then we heard Natasha Cloud and a plethora of others, but how important is that solidarity to bring light to such an important issue that's going on in our society right now?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, there's strength in numbers. Everybody knows it. You never want to be the one isolated out. There's strength in that. Yeah. So when I know that there's multiple WNBA players that feel the same way I do, there's NBA players that feel the same way I do. And when I say feel the same way I do, it's not about opting out of the bubble. It's about feeling this strongly about the movement and the timing of this movement. So when I know that there's a large group of us, that's empowering. LeBron James's team brought me in on the More Than a Vote campaign. That's empowering for me as an athlete where I already wanted to make a difference. And now here they bring me in on this campaign. So the more athletes do that, again, the more results and wins we'll see.
Yeah, and you mentioned LeBron. He's been extremely vocal, and a lot of NBA players have been vocal as well. But why do you think that the WNBA, like we've seen so many players over the years be at the forefront of societal issues, why do you think that is for the WNBA?
Yeah, Candace Parker said something to me the other day. She said, we're the majority of the minority. And what she means by that is we're Black women. You know where that is on the totem pole. We're a large part of the LGBTQ community. So we understand, we've lived this life our whole life. So we understand what it's like to not be included. We understand what it's like to be the minority. So when you have a league comprised of a lot of women with that same feeling, of course, we're going to be outspoken about social causes. We live them.
That's very true. And how important is it to get that support from the WNBA? And just to piggyback on that, since Kathy Engelbert has come on, she solidified a new CBA, and she's made some changes. And you've been in the league for about 10, 11 years at this point. How have you seen the league change, and do you think it's moving in the right direction?
Yeah, it's definitely moving in the right direction. It's moving forward. And the reason I say it's moving forward is because we get more pay, but it's also moving forward in the lifestyle things. Those were the things that were most important to me, where they're starting to go back and they looked at our flights. They understood that we shouldn't be riding in the middle seat. You know, they changed things. They understood that maybe travel does warrant a private flight. So they've made it understandable. They've thought about us as players. So that's definitely in the right direction. And even something to take it a step further with Kathy is that, you know, I've heard time and time again that she's not afraid to say it. She's not afraid to put us out there. She doesn't ask for permission in a sense of, can you include the WNBA? She always forces the issue of, you should include it. So just for somebody battling on our behalf, and then with the new branding, you know, Eb Jones is over it, and they're allowing players to be themselves. There are authentic selves. And I think that's the only direction to move. You start to see more about a player's story. What do they like? The culture, you know, the kicks. Even somebody like an Erica Willer, who her story is unbelievable. She ended up getting MVP at the All-Star game, but just the story behind the story. Now we're learning that, and that's the direction that the WNBA should be going in.
Yeah, and that's a key point. That's a key point, like the story behind the story, because you all are athletes, but you're also human beings too. And you have stories and you have things that you have done outside of basketball that need to be heard. So like you said, I think that's great progress forward. And I think that's also a great transition, because here at the 3-Point Conversion, we also want to know more about who you are and what your actual story is. And you've had a very fruitful WNBA career. So tell us, how did you fall in love with the game of basketball?
Oh man, I fell in love young, you know, and I was the loyal type. So fell in love young, I would say. Started dating the basketball with 10, 11 is where we like started dating. I got serious 12, where I knew it was a thing. And then I would say the rest was history. Like once I knew what I wanted to do, I'm kind of the type where if I know what I want to do, I just like try to build out a system of how to get it. So everything I did was focused on getting to my goal, which was getting a D1 scholarship. And then once I signed to UConn, it was to be good in college. And then once I was a senior, it was to graduate and to be in the WNBA. So I just kind of went about it with the workers mentality.
That workers mentality, what advice can you give other young women who have a dream, whether it's basketball or not? What advice can you give them on the steps to take? Because you have a lot of young girls looking up to you, like whether you know it or not, even with what you're doing by sitting out at this season, but also as a player. What kind of advice can you give them?
I would say just to stand in your truth. You know, when you're younger, you always want to fit in, you know, and you don't want to be the odd one out. You don't want to be different. But if you feel that strongly about something, stand in your truth. And just for me, when I stood in my truth and I knew that this is what I wanted to do, this is who I am, this is what happened to my mom, I'm telling everybody my story. Well, a lot of good things happened from that. You know, I had business people that were reaching out saying, you know, we want you to help us get the conversation started. We want to make sure that we are being inclusive. You know, how can we do it? How can you help us? And then when they started asking me that, I'm like, wow, so a whole career might start now from me just standing in my truth, my authentic self. People saw that, and businesses are like, yeah, like we could see that, incorporating that into their program. That wasn't my initial thought process. You know, a lot of people were asking me, like, financially, how are you going to survive? And I was like, first of all, I'll be okay, but I'll figure it out when it comes to that. I was just believing in that much in the movement in the moment. And so from that came a whole almost career, because now I do want to go to different businesses. I do want to help them, you know, walk in there. I can see things, you know, as Black people, we know things that make me feel inclusive. If we go into a business and we see Black art, what are you going to think? Like, okay, like, you know, like what is your initial thought? You're going to see representation. You're going to feel included. So just little things that businesses can do to be more inclusive. And the main part is that they want to. So of course I want to help people be more inclusive. So what a crazy dope job that I might end up having just from standing in my own truth and my own beliefs.
And you mentioned that you were telling people what happened with your mom. I don't know if everyone knows that story. Do you mind sharing a little bit, elaborating a little bit more on that for our viewers who don't know?
Yeah, so my mom, I was born and raised in St. Albans, West Virginia. My mom was born in Detroit, and then when she was around 12 or 13, she moved to West Virginia. But one thing she got from both worlds is she was in Detroit during the Detroit riots in 1967, moved to West Virginia where it's a 3.6% Black population there. So dramatic differences. So she grew up a lot of her young life in an all white area. Then she would go to school, and at her high school, again, this is different times, but at her high school there was a Black student that was doing singing at a talent show. Now, this Black student was a preacher's kid. A lot of people in the area knew her, but when she was performing at the talent show at the school, a lot of the white students were throwing pennies at her while she was performing. And the Black students, they didn't like that. The teachers, the staff didn't step in. And I know a lot of us are thinking like, what? They didn't step in? No, they didn't step in. This is my mom's story. They didn't step in. So my mom and some other Black students, they did a walkout. They walked out of the school. There were actually a couple white students that walked out with them, but they had to walk out to show that they wouldn't accept that behavior, that they wouldn't accept it from the school. They wouldn't accept it from the other students. That's my mom. So I know a lot of people are thinking that this is a 400 years old. This is a slavery thing. And why aren't we over it? Yeah, because it happened to people that we all know that story. A lot of Black people, most Black people have a story where they know something happened to someone. It's just our reality. So that you need to understand that. And when you're speaking to businesses and other people that don't understand that, it's opening their perspective. Everyone has a perspective, but I just want to help people broaden their perspective.
That's true. Sometimes it can be overt racism, like you just spoke of, but sometimes it's not overt. But either way it goes, Black people as a people have dealt with a lot. And in telling your mom's story, is that where this sort of activism in you come from?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so funny because for a lot of my dad and my mom are almost opposites. It's the passive and it's the aggressive. And so for a lot of my life, people probably assumed that I was the passive, like my dad, in the sense of I kind of go with the flow and I don't speak out. I do what's right and I kind of follow those lines. But lately I've been a lot like my mama. So honestly, just hearing her stories and just hearing it did inspire me. It's hard for people if anybody right now, somebody told you a story that happened to your mom and you didn't know it, and then the same thing is happening now. I think anybody in my position would probably be like, oh no, we're not, that's over. Like, we're not doing this anymore. So
exactly.
I think my story is what makes this so real to me.
That's great. And I think our viewers can definitely appreciate hearing more about your mom and just knowing how that marries up to what you're doing. And you're doing great things, Renee. So everyone's proud of you. I'm sure you know that, and I'm sure that you have heard that. Now, I know that, I want to be cognizant of your time, but there's something that I wanted to talk to you about. I wanted to make sure you don't go away without me talking to you about this. I saw on your Twitter bio that you said you're an actress, and I would love to know more about that. How did you get into acting? What have you done? Let us know.
Yeah. Okay, so I've always kind of wanted to be in the entertainment industry since I was young. So there's some clips. I need to post some Throwback Thursdays of when I was younger.
Yeah, let us show us.
No, it's not me acting. It's when I was younger saying like, yo, I'm going to act. Like right now I'm in love with basketball, and that's kind of the thing. Like you asked about it. Basketball has this window, we're only going to be these athletes in our prime for a certain amount of time. So for me, I've always had two passions, but I kind of let basketball take the lead because why would I waste this blessing? But now that I'm going to have more time in a sense of things to do. And when I didn't go overseas, that's when it started. I stopped going overseas and if people don't know, we play the WNBA in the summer and then overseas in the off season. So I stopped going overseas and I started taking acting classes, improv classes, and doing different things to educate and prepare myself. I haven't done a lot of things. I have one thing out on Amazon Prime. It's Not My Favorite Christmas. And then I've filmed a couple other indie things that haven't been released yet. But yeah, it's definitely a passion of mine. Listen, I'll be exploring all passions because I think there's different ways to be an activist as well. And a lot of people talk about my platform and how leaving basketball might diminish my platform, but I do think that there's multiple ways to have a platform. And there's multiple ways to be a voice and be heard. So I'll definitely be exploring all of my passions.
So we could potentially see you on our movie screens.
Listen.
WNBA career.
Listen, speak it to me. Speak it in existence. Put it out there.
Okay, you heard it here first. 3-point conversion.
Yeah, definitely. But and that's what I mean. Like right now, there's a lot going on, and that's what I meant by my focus right now is going to be on social justice. But I want people to understand that I'm still going to be living my normal life. It's not like I have to put everything aside. It's just the WNBA. When you're in love with something, you got to break it off, because I can't just go into the bubble and be playing 3 games a week and trying to study for the film for the games and do other stuff. So I just know myself, and that's why I opted out. But I will still be living life and being me. But I'm going to be banging the drum. I'm going to be pushing the movement forward and continuing the movement.
We love to hear that. Now, Renee, I know we have to let you go soon. Now, for everyone, 2020 has been wild, and I don't know what kind of music you listen to, but if there was a song that you could pick to describe 2020 so far, what would that be?
Easy. Beyonce, Black Parade. That's easy.
Oh, okay. That was easier than I thought it would be. Yeah.
It's the mood. So if you haven't heard it, it's the mood, and it's just basically she's talking about just being prideful, Black pride. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's what 2020. We'll remember the pandemic, we'll remember everything, but this movement and what might happen from this movement, I think that will be the big takeaway of 2020, that a lot of people, including myself, we woke up and we started to fight for what we believed in and what we knew is time. So yeah, Black Parade, Beyonce is the mood, moment, 2020, all of that.
Yeah, if you haven't heard it, go check it out. Definitely check it out. And Renee, like you said, I think that for me, I think there's a blessing in everything. And this is a tough time, pandemic-wise, but I do think the issues that it's bringing to light, it has everyone's attention right now, which is something that we don't always get on a day-to-day basis when we're living our busy lives.
Right.
So my last question for you, 5-10 years from now, if we look back on 2020, and what Renee Montgomery has done, what do you want people to say?
Yeah, I just caused awareness. I think awareness is key right now, and people are very aware of me sitting out, and now they're very aware of why. So a lot of times awareness is hard to do. It's hard to get people's attention. I think that I got a certain level of attention drawn to the movement, and so that's me doing my part, what I can do. I'm going to further do some more things. Hopefully I drive people to the polls, but first educate people, because I'm going to be doing some workshops where, we talk about local government. What is that? What does the mayor do? What is your beliefs in healthcare? People don't even know when we talk about healthcare, what are the 2 different sides of the coin when it comes to Democrats, Republican. We're not telling anyone who to vote for, but I think the more informed people can be, they can make a better informed decision. And then when they go vote, they're confident, and maybe they will go vote because now they understand how it affects their everyday life. So those are things that I want to do, that I'm going to be working on. But I just thank you guys for giving me this platform to talk about it.
And thank you for being here. We'll be rooting for you, Renee. Is there, do you want to tell people where to follow you and learn more about what you'll be doing moving forward?
Yeah, so you follow me on Instagram. It's ITS. It's Renee M. I have to say that so they don't think it's Renee M, but it's Renee M on Instagram. On Twitter, just add an _. It's Renee M _. And my nonprofit is RMF Nonprofit on all socials. So yeah, just follow the journey, join in, support, and that could just be a retweet, a like. But listen, I'm excited because I feel hopeful.
We're excited for you too. Thank you for being with us once again, Renee. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.